I am reconvening the Board of Supervisors May 2nd board meeting. We had a closed session, so I need to certify the closed meeting.
Just go ahead and read the certificate statement. Do each of you certify to the best of your knowledge only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered by the Board of Supervisors in the closed meeting?
We just need
roll call on that.
roll call. Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Smith? Aye. Mr. Whitson?
Yes.
Mr. Carney?
Aye.
And I also.
Excellent.
All right. Moving into the next agenda item, which is the public hearing for the secondary 6-year plan. This public hearing is only for that 6-year plan. If anyone wishes to speak, please be recognized, and when you come up to the mic, give us your name and the district you're in, and we'll keep comments to 5 minutes or less.
Let me provide just a quick introduction, and Mr. Nesbitt is available to answer questions as well, your resident engineer, and we have some VDOT staff here with us. Each year, the Board of Supervisors opens a public hearing together with the Virginia Department of Transportation to hear citizens' interests relative to projects to be placed on the secondary 6-year plan, as well as set your priority list for the upcoming fiscal year. The 6-year plan, as it would sound, includes funding for projects over the next 6 years, road projects, and primarily the funding that the board receives is related to unpaved roads. And so the predominant process that you go through each year is to prioritize which roads in the community should be hard surface that are now gravel. There is a public hearing notice placed in the newspaper as required by the Code of Virginia, and it was available, materials were available at my office as well as at VDOT and is online. Your current 6-year plan includes hard surfacing of Kaiser Run Road, Horton Hollow Road, Pullens Bluff Road, and as you recall, in addition to those hard surfacing projects, the board added a turn lane at Holly Springs Road following the original adoption and through adoption of an amended plan. In advertising this to the public, the board has informed the community that you will consider potentially adding Turkey Ridge Road from the Culpeper line to the one-lane bridge in 2 sections, Swindler Hollow Road, Sycamore Ridge Road, Gid Brown Hollow Road, and then a second section of Gid Brown Hollow Road, which is separated by a little bit of maintenance pavement. Those projects, those roads also had some step-in signs placed along their edge, and citizens have who called administration were informed that there would be a public hearing tonight in the courthouse where they could express their views to the Board of Supervisors as to their input on whether these roads should be hard surfaced or should not be hard surfaced. With that introduction, I think it'd be appropriate to hear from the public.
Anyone wishing to speak?
So opening the public hearing.
Yes, sir. Opening the public hearing.
Well, I did not expect to speak on this issue. Rich by me. I'm in Piedmont District. I live at the end of Old Hollow, over on Swindler's Hollow. I just saw the signs a few days ago. I do not support this idea. I believe the gravel roads are perfectly adequate. The speeds are appropriate, and it maintains and continues the rural nature of the county and that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you.
John Kaiser, Piedmont. I was here this morning, this afternoon. I have a question. Is this a done deal as it relates to?
We're having a public hearing on a 6-year road plan right now.
That's it. I'm sorry. Are you going to continue to discuss this?
Yeah.
So it's not.
That's the next agenda
It
item.
hasn't been removed from the agenda to tonight.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Patty Hardy. I live on Holly Springs Road, just across the line into Culpeper, and I am all in favor of a turn lane. That little turn lane coming east on 211, turning onto Holly Springs is really treacherous, so I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Turn lane's already approved. Yeah.
Anyone else with regards to the VDOT six-year plan?
I think we should remind them that they're required to say something.
We have
Required?
a few people online. I don't
Yes.
know if there's-
Anyone online wishing to speak during this public hearing? Not seeing any hands online. We can close the public hearing.
Madam Chairman, we do have people from VDOT in the audience, and I'm wondering at what point it would be appropriate to hear from them.
Yeah, and Mr. Nesbitt's online.
Online.
He's intends to provide VDOT comments and can unmute himself. There is a package, resolution before you that has some blanks, so as you have your discussion, you can consider whether certain roads should be added to those blanks from the list that was advertised. I can get to it. There it is. And I'll say that from the signs that are out and about and the public hearing ad in my office did receive some input from citizens. They were, Bill Dant would like to speak, but can't raise his hand. So would you like to recognize
Yes.
Mr. Dant?
Yes, Mr. Dant, with regards to the VDOT six-year plan?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of and I live in the, just down the road on the Turkey Ridge Road extension. The first portion of Turkey Ridge Road was, or actually O'Bannon's Mill Road, which then proceeds on to Turkey Ridge, was paved last summer and has made a huge difference to everybody in our neighborhood and is highly appreciated. I see the school buses going further down Turkey Ridge and having to turn around and come back, and I just think, the rural nature of our county or not, the safety of our kids is really important, and there's a lot of truck traffic on that road, and it's not really wide, and I just think that the additional safety of a hard surface provides more safety for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Nesbitt, would you like to speak, say anything?
Sure, I'm sorry I'm not there tonight, but yeah, I'm willing to, I guess, answer any questions that you all may have about the roads that are about the six-year plan program. I don't have any specific comments, but I'm here and available to answer any questions.
I was leading up to say that my office received input from several citizens regarding the series of roads that are on the screen and that were in the public hearing notice. The input we received, one negative comment for Get Brown Hollow, no positive comments. Both positive and negative comments for Sycamore Ridge and Swindler Hollow, and then a couple positive comments for Turkey Ridge. Relative to the overall budget, VDOT did, at the last meeting, you discussed this, there was a conversation regarding updating the estimated costs. VDOT re-ran those costs, and you can see those in this table. The Turkey Ridge sections are approximately $644,000 a piece, $645,000 for an 8/10 of a mile section. Your current available funding is listed in the plan is $766,306 for a future designated road. So you could fund up to $766,000. You don't have to consume the entirety of that balance. You can add to, leave a balance and have that balance be available and use it next year.
Mr. Curry, I just have a question about and this goes to Ms. Hardy's comment I can see why she was compelled to comment on the Holly Springs turn lane. I'm sure there's an administrative reason for this, but I thought the turn lane was already something we had resolved, yet the resolution in our board packet reflects it as number 2 under the clause that appears to be a construction priority list. And I just want to understand why we would be voting on a resolution that effectively addresses Holly Springs a second time.
Sure. Every year, when you consider your 6-year plan, you are reapproving that priority list in its entirety. So Kaiser Run Road, that engineering is well underway. This board could potentially take it off the list and have a bunch of sunk cost, and same with these other projects. So you need to reaffirm that these are your chosen roads, and you have in the past.
Okay.
A road further down the list removed it from the plan after citizens spoke out and told you they did not want it.
Right, and that's kind of to my point. I just want to make sure by taking this action, we're not effectively starting over. And I trust that Holly Springs, the turn lane design and all of that work. Mr. Nesbitt, I assume that's already underway, correct?
Yes, we are planning on constructing that project later this summer.
Okay.
For this year.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
So if there's interest of the board, you can simply pick one of these sections and enter it into the blank on the resolution.
I have heard from multiple constituents on Turkey Ridge Road that they would all love to see it improved. I think it's a real health and safety issue for many of the folks that live there. And before I was elected, many people on Turkey Ridge Road said, "Hey, you win. We want this fixed." So I'm here to vote for that. I know that people would be thrilled. That's my bit.
Are there any roads that we want to remove from this list?
That's another good point. This tracking sheet that we've used over the last several years, tracking roads that have been considered, and several at the bottom of this list have been discussed in past years. You've had citizens come out and tell you, no, thank you. And you could add, for example, Swindler Hollow or Sycamore Ridge, or get around to those if you so choose, or you could leave them kind of in a neutral category and reconsider them in the future. You can always reconsider any road, but that's just a data keeping for us to recall where we were a year ago when we're at this time next year.
Well, I think everyone knows when we had this discussion to advertise for these road sections in Piedmont District, and I'm not familiar with the stretch of Turkey Ridge Road, but I didn't think any of these were good options. But we put up signage to get feedback nonetheless, and I heard more negative, in some cases only negative, on all of the options in the Piedmont District. So I don't see the need to advertise them next year, but I don't know that they need to be taken off the list.
You mean, excuse me, not add any of these in Piedmont District?
I don't think any of the I think Turkey Ridge is the best candidate this year. I'm not sure which section is the better candidate to add this year, but Swindler Hollow and Sycamore Ridge, I heard from folks in that area that did not want it added, and Gid Brown Hollow, I also heard from folks down there that did not want it added. So I don't think any of those are good comments or good options to add this year.
The Kaiser Run is to remain.
Kaiser Run should remain. I mean, when we took a road off the list and completely reordered the list, it was because this gallery was packed with people telling us, take us off the list.
That was Battle Run.
Where was it?
Battle Run.
Battle Run. Thank you, Gary. That is the only occasion on which we have removed a road, in my recollection, from the list and reordered the list. Otherwise, if there is not swift and resounding backlash against the roads that are already in progress, we should let them play out. Kaiser Run Road ideally would be a very nice, quiet back road. However, Little Devil's Staircase is at the end of Kaiser Run Road, and that means it gets a lot of traffic.
But sometimes Kaiser Run Road is the river.
Well, from what we've heard from VDOT before, paving it would only help.
Yeah.
You did receive a lot of support for that last year.
And so
So as I noted, there is a resolution. If someone would want to move, you move the resolution with the addition of whichever road entered into a numbered blank.
So we have 700,000 on the table, so we could add one Turkey Ridge.
Yep. And presumably you would add this section that extends the hard surface from Bennett's Mill, which is the first entry on this chart.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
Well, then I'd like to move to approve the resolution adopting the VDOT secondary six-year plan with the addition of Turkey Ridge Road. The first section from the Culpeper County line to, well, an eighth of the mile down the road.
Not change the order of priority.
You would be adding that at number 6?
You asking
That's
Van?
my question is the same.
Adding that at number 6?
Adding to number 6, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would just say Sycamore Ridge would be one, I believe if we move forward with Turkey Ridge this year, then we'll have almost spent all the money that we can add this year. So let's revisit Sycamore Ridge next time.
And you'll probably get another 370,000 next year or something like that. So wouldn't even be enough to do the next section.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call. Sorry. Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Whitson?
Aye.
Mr. Carney?
Aye.
And I also.
We did have some concerns today at the public comment about lack of maintenance in some area roads, and particularly that area up there.
Yes, there were comments made, particular about Hull School Road, and I have to say I agree, that is a really rough stretch. And again, that's a road that ends with a trailhead. And I have talked to Mr. Nesbitt about it before, and there's a bridge back there that tends to have a very large pothole at the end of it. So, you know, anything you all can do to make repairs through that section would be greatly appreciated. It's another spot that if you go back there during the week, you think it's a nice, quiet country back road. If you go back there on a weekend, you'll find out what all the no parking signs are for.
Excuse me, Ms. Smith, what road was that?
Hull School, Hull School Road.
Right at the end of Old
Okay.
Hollow.
yeah.
Okay.
And I know when we had talked about it before, Mark, you had said you all made some repairs back there, but it seems to be an issue. There's a lot of water back there, so, you know, there's some repairs made, and then a bad storm moves through, and then things kind of get back to where they were. So it may need some ideas to help them out.
Okay, we'll definitely take another look at that.
Definitely not an option for paving.
I don't think you'd have the numbers there.
While we have you, Mark, I'm wondering, I was on Riley Hollow over the weekend, and there's white markings across the road down Riley Hollow. I'm wondering what those are for?
I'm not sure. They could be for if you have tree removals planned, or someone may have had a utility locate. I'm not sure, unless we have a pipe that we're getting ready to replace, but I'm certainly checking on that at Riley Hollow.
Yes, sir. There's multiple lines with arrows pointing in different directions, so if you can help me out, I'd appreciate it.
I think there's been some data collection of sign locations. I saw a subcontractor out here, I think GPS logging sign locations or something like that.
Hey, Mark, it's Keir Whitson. I know that we had talked last time about the traffic count on Long Mountain Road and then the width of the road. Just a reminder that you're going to come back with some cost analysis on the ongoing gravel-related maintenance on Long Mountain Road from Rock Mills up at least to Ridgeview. just to look at what could be done like on a spot basis there, since it likely doesn't qualify for anything under this program.
Okay.
Anything else from Mr. Nesbitt?
I have something. Mark, Ron Fraser here. I just wondered, since you mentioned tree removal, if you would have time the next couple of days, or if you could designate someone to meet with me and let me show you a few very dangerous looking trees down in my neck of the woods.
Yes, sir, we can certainly arrange that. If you want to give me those roads, I can certainly have have them looked at by our maintenance superintendent as well, but I'd be happy to look at that.
Yeah, Viewtown Road, there's a really strange looking tree that never really caught my attention until it was pointed out to me, and I went and looked at it myself, and it's it's hard to explain. It's a real accident waiting to happen.
Viewtown Road?
Viewtown Road, yes, sir, near Viewtown Store, between Dotson Road and Viewtown Store.
Okay.
Driving down the road, you just think it's a tree branch growing over the road, but it's a tree at a 60-degree angle on that steep bank.
Okay.
Maybe I can make it sound worse than that.
Drive fast.
David Jenkins, who's here in the county, has been really good on our road, coming out and looking at trees when called upon. So
I mean, I've
that might
seen
be a
this,
way to
I
go.
don't know how many times, and I just never really noticed the way that it's positioned on that bank. It's not a tree limb, it's a tree. So,
Ms. Fraser, you said if you want to send me, a list of locations, I can certainly get them, we can get them, assessed, and, if they need to be removed, we can have them put them on our list. It may take a little while, but we can get them on our list to remove unless our area headquarters, unless they're not really a big, complicated removal, we can remove them with our area headquarters. But if they're large and are near power lines or something like that, we typically have to get our contractor.
yeah, it's not large, but it's a very awkward place.
Okay.
So I'll try and get that together for you, and I'll forward it to you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Appreciate it.
All right, anything else from VDOT?
Oh, Mark, any updates on the Sperryville paving project? And that'll be my last question.
Yes, the contractor is having some technical problems and his schedule's getting pushed out, so it's going to probably be the latter part of May
Okay,
before they get up to Sperryville.
that's great. Thank you. And please, anything you can do to keep us in the loop.
I sure will.
Thank you, Mr. Nesbitt.
All right, at this time, we're going to move into the public comment period of the evening. Anyone wishing to speak, please be recognized.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Please be recognized, state your name and your district, and we're keeping public comment to 5 minutes or less.
Madam Chair, I was going to ask, but I really think it's probably not necessary at this point if we have public comment before the next business item. Are we going to allow any comment during that period?
Typically, I would say no. I guess it depends on if the board or the authority wants to.
We've never had a public hearing on this project.
This is a public comment, so people can get up and say whatever they'd like at this point.
I understand, but we've got information or maybe discussion that we could give them. They could comment on that. I just thought maybe that might be appropriate since it's such a large item.
As we've done in the past, if the authority or the board chooses to have someone speak, I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Debbie, is this the final place to talk about
Broadband.
broadband
Yes, ma'am.
Or anything else?
Or anything else, really.
or anything?
Yep.
I'm Bonnie Ellis from Wakefield. And I saw a comment in the paper, which I read today, that said that nobody was showing up regarding broadband in support of it. So I thought I would come out and be in support of it. And I also thought I would entertain you, if that's okay. I think it'll take me 3 minutes to entertain you. And I have this really bad habit of when I get horribly frustrated, I write. So I'm just going to read to you. Right? I have spent the last approximately 90-plus minutes trying to resolve an issue with CenturyLink. I am angry, frustrated, upset, and although a rational adult, I want to throw a temper tantrum or at least throw this miserable telephone out the door and never, ever deal with CenturyLink or any technicians associated with CenturyLink ever again. Our landline telephone has had static on it for months, since a lightning strike at some distant time last year. The line was repaired, which means we and our neighbor across the street again have service, but service with a hum that changes to static, that changes to crackling, and then returns to a hum. I tried as directed by CenturyLink to go online and chat to get help. I was told this is not a chat issue and I needed to speak with someone or text with someone. So I tried texting. In response to my text, I get an automated reply saying that someone will get back to me. Occasionally, I would send another text inquiring, but other than an answering text saying that someone would get back to me, nothing ever happened. And we're talking about months here. Finally, a week ago, someone got back to me. That individual told me I needed to call 1-800-244-1111, option 5, to speak with someone about repair. There is no option 5. Our latest phone problem started this past week. In addition to the hum static, there is now either number 1, no voicemail, or number 2, an alternative message which is not the voicemail. A technician came to our house and worked yesterday, Monday, today, Tuesday, and will be back tomorrow, Wednesday, trying to fix the static hum on the line. Monday, he found some minor issues in 3 pedestals down the road, all of which had the tops removed. He is still looking. He told me to call CenturyLink and ask that our voicemail be reset. He said to call 1-800-788-3600. Today, a bucket truck came and 2 technicians again spent a couple of hours troubleshooting the problem. The first technician said they found another problem, but the issue still existed and probably the line on the 3 closest telephone poles needed to be replaced because of the damage from the lightning strike. And to do that, they would have to string a separate line because we are the last house from Benvenue and low on the company's list of priorities. The line comes down Benvenue Road, this is to my understanding, I could be wrong, from Route 22 through Flint Hill, down the fodder stack, then down Deering Road to us. Maybe 5-6 miles, I don't know. Oh, and did I say our internet download speed is 0.7 megabyte for internet, and the upload speed is even less, and that's not working either. Today I called 1-800-788-3600 as directed by the technician and got that miserable male-sounding message that says the same thing over and over again, starting with paying bills. Finally, after many options, none of which was option 5, I got a woman, Joyce, who said to call 1-800-201-4099, option 5. I told her there is no option 5, but that is the best she could do. I then called 1-800-201-4099 and got the same male-sounding voice yet again. Repair is apparently not a word it recognizes. Finally, after many options, none of which was 5, I got a human whose name was either Don or John, couldn't figure out which, who proceeded to tell me I needed a technician. I told her a technician had told me to call and say the voicemail needed to be reset. She told me to call 1-800-201-4099, option 5. I told her that Joyce before her had said the same thing, and that is how I got Don John. I didn't need a technician, and there is no option 5. So she said she would transfer me to a technician who could help. After much music and static and delay, Tiffany answered and told me she would contact a technician. I told her I didn't need a technician. I just needed someone, either human or robotic, to fix the voicemail issue. She explained to me that a technician might need to enter our house, and for the low cost of X, it would save me the $99 charge for a technician to enter the house and fix the problem. I explained to Tiffany that the technician who was there yesterday and today and was coming again tomorrow had told me to call and get someone to reset the voicemail, and no one needed to enter our house. The technician who already came said it was a CenturyLink problem and to call for assistance. Then she wanted my cell phone number so someone could call me back. I asked her why, and she said, if the landline doesn't work. I explained to her that yes, I have a cell phone, but it doesn't work in the house. So why would anyone want to call me on it? Just call me on my lousy landline number with the static on it, the missing voicemail, and no internet. Oh, well, okay, hold on, and I will transfer you to someone, she said. Oh, by the way, I told her, no option 5. No problem, she said. She would get me to the correct technician. Don't hang up, she said. I forgot to ask her how long I should wait for this technician before she put me on hold. So goodbye, Tiffany. So I understand, sure, I understand sorry. Sure, I understand. What can she do? She is a female voice attached to a real person somewhere on planet Earth, presumably who is following her routine and procedure and instructions and wants me to go away just as badly as I want her to go away, and for all our telephone issues to go away also. Goodbye, Tiffany. And also, hello, approximately 10 minutes of music followed by approximately 10 minutes of low-level hum. Is she still there? Is anyone there? Should I continue to wait for something to happen? I press the disconnect button.
Ms. Ellis, I'm going to try to hold everybody to 5, so can you wrap it up, please?
I can.
Thanks.
So I called our landline. I'll go through that. I don't know how this issue will be resolved with our phone in Rappahannock County. I would prefer to have voicemail over internet phone service. I put a deposit on Starlink over a year ago, but the last email from them said they were not covering this area, although they have not returned our deposit. We need some kind of phone service to operate a business and be connected to the world. I like using the internet. I wish I could stream. I wish I could upload photos, but I don't want cell towers all over the county. I am hopeful that the county and all points are able to reach an agreement that is fair and beneficial to all the people living here, all the existing businesses and potential future businesses, and all the young people wanting a country life, but also wanting the technology necessary to live in the 21st century. In the interim, we are stuck with lousy phone service, no ability to get anyone to fix it, dial-up speed internet, and all the lost time from dealing with ineffective and inefficient services.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Please contact me about your CenturyLink. Via email, it's probably easier, I'm not sure. Sorry. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Patty Hardy, still live on Holly Springs Road, but I'm not here to talk about that. I am the executive director of Rapid Home. We're a local nonprofit that serves the health, safety, and social needs of Rappahannock's seniors. And our office is in the old Washington School on Mount Salem Avenue. I know you all understand the importance of broadband to Rappahannock. I want to focus on the needs for broadband of a certain segment of your constituent population, the county's senior citizens, of which I am one. As I said before, our mission is the health, safety, and social needs of the county's citizens. So let me first talk about health-related benefits of broadband for seniors. To state the obvious, we don't have health centers in Rappahannock, so most of us drive at least 30 minutes, often much longer, to reach a doctor or other provider. As we saw during the dark days of the pandemic, when our movements were restricted, it became even more difficult to see a doctor. Telehealth became a welcome, maybe even essential channel to health resources, and it's become embraced by medical professionals. Even when the pandemic is in our rearview mirror, telehealth will still become increasingly important in monitoring health and communicating with physicians, especially here in a rural area. Telehealth solves the need for transportation if people don't or can't drive, but it's only available if you have internet connection. Many of our seniors are housebound or rely on others like Rapid Home for rides to appointments. Being able to access telehealth over the internet would really be a boon for them. As for safety, we're all aware of how important connectivity is for emergency services responders. Time is truly of the essence with our senior populations, but another aspect of emergency response is the use of those little I've fallen and I can't get up devices that many people use to cover or to call 911. Traditionally, these medical devices or alerts work off of landlines, and the range is very limited with the use. People have to be pretty much in their homes. But more and more, these devices are going with wireless communication, which broadens the range, but of course it relies on internet communication. As more and more device manufacturers go to wireless communications, seniors will need to have broadband for those devices. As for meeting social needs, broadband offers seniors, especially those who are homebound, ill, don't drive, or are health compromised, a way to participate in activities and stay socially engaged with friends and family members. We know that isolation is detrimental to mental health. Rappahannock seniors need the internet in order to literally stay connected with the community, to email their friends, Skype with grandchildren or their own children, read newspapers, participate in events and activities. We offer many Zoomed activities throughout the year, and people who have internet are able to Zoom in and use them. In closing, I know that you have much work ahead of you to get broadband in place, and I do not envy the cussing and discussing that will go on as you make the hard decisions to get broadband in place here. So I really appreciate your willingness to do what needs to be done. On behalf of the board and staff of Rapid Home, I thank you so much for listening to me and considering the broadband needs of our Rappahannock seniors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.
Yes, sir.
Bob Ryan, the Stonewall District, and as I've written and talked before, I'm a huge, huge fan of internet, broadband. I'm a fan of Piedmont Broadband. I'm still working with Piedmont Broadband. I have a very large tree, which works well with Piedmont Broadband. And I'm looking forward to All Points and delivering the state-of-the-art fiber network to Rappahannock. I know, and actually I should preface and say that I agree with Supervisor Fraser. I would have liked to have heard the discussion before the public comment so that we could have a little bit of an interaction. And I would hope, as I've written before, that this would be a unanimous decision by the board. I think it's a historic moment to bring broadband to Rappahannock. And it's not a political issue. It's not a yes, no. Yes, there are questions that weren't answered. And as we go forward, will probably be answered. And yes, there is some risk. Now, I would say the risk is about 2%. The big money behind All Points is the company called, what is it? Yes.
Searchlight Capital.
And a private capital that has a lot of money on the line. Do you think that they really want to put money behind this monumental endeavor for 8 counties, just less than 100 miles from Washington, D.C., and see it go under? That would be bad press. And I know bad press and good press. They want to see it succeed. Everybody wants to see it succeed. Every constituent of every supervisor wants to see it succeed. Every supervisor should be on board. And so if you're not, go back to the young families. Tell them, I don't think education's important for your elementary school. Go back to the seniors. Say, no, I don't think senior information on the internet is important. I'm against it. Go back to people that don't have cell. Landline is failing. Voice over internet, I've used it for years. No, don't want that. So, in the end, think of your constituents, see what they want. And I'm going to close by reading this. The pandemic has ended any debate about the need to expand internet access to all Americans. Today, broadband is not a luxury, it's a necessity. in modern American life. But too many Americans still find themselves on the wrong, on the wrong side of the digital divide, said Ajay Pal, who is the partner of Searchlight Capital and former chairman of the U.S. Federal Communications Commission. Searchlight's investment will help All Points Broadband meaningfully bridge that divide for many thousands of consumers in Virginia and the Mid-Atlantic. More generally, this transaction highlights how a unique partnership among governments at all levels, electric utilities, ISPs, and private capital can deliver major benefits to consumers. A risk? Well, yes, I think Rappahannock has less at risk than any other county that's in part of this partnership. Probably the same. How did they do it? How did they do it? And the benefit to people today, tomorrow, to grandchildren, it's immeasurable. Do it. Make it unanimous.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mark Anderson from Piedmont. Never follow Bob Ryan.
Now with the weather forecast.
He said it. What I'd like to do is request one of you to put the letter from Robert Yowell, which was sent this afternoon and posted on the Facebook site, into the record, if there's a mechanism to do that. It's a thoughtful letter. I don't necessarily endorse it, but I think it should be part of the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
I read it.
Yes, we did all receive it.
Oh, Mr. Kaiser.
Okay.
Okay, this is the right
I
time.
think this is the audience I want, right? Right time, right people. I read an article, I guess 3 weeks ago, about progress. And it was mentioned, I believe, that our executive director here, Mr. Curry, had some concerns, I believe was the terminology. And I'm curious to know what those concerns were and have they been resolved. And then add as an addendum my own concern, which would seem to me revolve around the seemingly strange nature of the business relationship that you're trying to develop, where you're not allowed, if this is still the case, to talk with competitors during the period of the negotiations with this outfit. Is that correct, that you weren't allowed to
We won't be allowed to
have
talk to-
parallel?
We won't be allowed to talk to anybody for the next 4 years or more.
Okay,
If they vote on tonight or anytime soon, it'll
Mr.
be
Frazier,
probably 4 years.
so,
try not to.
so my question is,
Again, they need information sometimes to be able to make intelligent comments.
Thank you.
He asked a question.
Thank you.
so what was your concern, and is it still a live concern?
Once we get to the agenda item, which is the discussion of the fiscal agent agreement, I'm sure that
Okay, so
Mr.
this
Curry
is
can-
another part of.
Yeah, this isn't typically Q&A, but your question is received, and once we get to that agenda item, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
So is this a comment or is this
It's a
time
comment.
for questions?
It's a comment.
It's a comment period.
Okay, great. I'd like you all to look at this little piece of paper while I just speak to you.
And when you get up to the mic, please give us your name and your district.
I would say you can ask questions too, but we just can't answer them in the moment.
Yep. Thank you.
Ideally.
My name is Ben Mason, and I'm in the Stonewall District. For 20 years, I've done repairs for Verizon, who runs the fiber to the homes in Northern Virginia and DC and Maryland. And for 20 years, I have done the repairs that we are going to see happen from the damages that are certain to happen in these installations we're going to have. It's not just getting the fiber to the house, it's what happens once it gets to the house, okay? It gets to the brick, the drills are 12, 14 inches long, they go through the brick, they go through the stucco, they go through the siding, aluminum, vinyl, cedar, whatever. Imagine you're in your house and there's a drill coming through. Uh-oh, it's in the wrong place, now my drywall needs to get fixed. Well, actually, I want it in this room over here, so the guy goes in the attic, he falls through the attic. So if you look at that list there, you'll see all the kinds of damages that I have to repair. And I've got a stack of invoices here. They just hit a, this is just recent here. I mean, it's sort of breathtaking. Here's siding. They hit a water main. That was $8,200. Okay, here's, $3,500. They hit electric, HVAC. Fire trucks had to come. It isn't small damage when you hit an electric line or a plumbing line or a sewer line. You have houses flooded. You hit a water system and a townhouse is flooded. And so I'm there replacing floors and carpeting and siding. We're up to $53,000. There's little damages, there's little drywall damages. Here's one for $3.25 where they came in, the guy hit a spot in the wall where he blew out the drywall. I had to patch it and paint it match paint. They drill through hardwood floors. I have to fill in that floor where the hole is, where they've drilled, match that floor color. Then they go in the attic, and you got a hole in the trim. I mean, it is an endless amount of damage that happens. Here's my point. Who's going to pay for that? That's what I want to know. Is All Points going to pay for that? Because the way Verizon works is the first $1,000 they pay me. I'm on a 90-day cycle. If it's over $1,000, Sedgwick pays. That's the insurance company. Folks, it is an endless amount of trim, hardwood floor, tile, cabinets. They fall through the ceiling. I have to match paint. I have to match texture. I mean, my voice is shaking thinking about the amount of work I got to do this week. I mean, it's an endless array. And I've got a siding crew. I've got a plumbing crew. I've got an HVAC crew. But I do all the artistic repair. And when you're inside of a house and you got to match color of drywall or wallpaper or plaster, it is expensive. Who's paying for that? Is the homeowner going to pay it? Have we thought about this? Because if you're upset that they've screwed up in your house, you don't want to have to pay that first $500. I don't think that's fair. I think we need to take a deep breath and ask them who's going to pay for this. I do this for Cox, Comcast, and Verizon. I've been doing this 20 years. And I had high hopes of reading some of these, but it's almost, Mr. Green, they hit both circuits. We had to restore the power. We replaced the drywall. We did all the painting of the areas. And when I say we, it's me and one other guy. Here's another one where they hit a fence and knocked the fence over. I mean, it's endless. It's an endless array. Who's paying for this? Are the homeowners paying for it? I hope not, because it's expensive.
First we've heard this type of story.
Say what?
So first we've heard this type of thing.
Well, I mean, the good example is when they hit the water system in a house, and they hit it with such force that it blew the guy across the room and it flooded the townhouse. So we're talking all the carpet, all the hardwood, all the drywall, all the electric had to be replaced. $53,000. That homeowner was not going to have to pay that. Verizon paid that. It may be a little bitty fiber, but those drills are this long. And you got a guy out there who's not really schooled. They don't school these people. So he's drilling. Oh, I think I hit something. And I talked to these guys. I said, well, when you hit it, what did you think? Well, I couldn't get through, man, so I kept going. Yeah, you went right through the trunk line. We had to do a heavy up. You know what a heavy up is? You got to bring Pepco or Rappahannock Electric in. You got to replace the whole main panel. That's a heavy up. That's $8,000. So who's paying for this? And I don't even want to talk about the outside damage that they drill through gutters and they drill through downspouts. And I had to repair landscaping the other day. They got a truck stuck in somebody's yard. And fiber sounds so innocuous and so benign. It's a little fiber that comes off a pole. No, it's going to go through your house. It's going to go through your brick. You have to match the brick. You got to match the color. You got to match the siding. So I think we really need to take a deep breath, and we need to get this written in so All Points is responsible. That's my humble opinion. I sure hope you think about it.
Thank you.
Okay? All right.
Thank you, Ben.
Sure.
Howdy, howdy. Rich Bobby here, Piedmont District. I've been working on this for 30 years, so Madam Chair, I'd like to ask for 30 minutes, 1 minute for each year I've been thinking about this. I will also say usually there's a red, a yellow, and a red light, so if somebody wants to wave their hand when I get on too long. The need's very clear. We all need and want this. Educational opportunities, healthcare, social communications, yeah, it's very clear. I'm working on a online MBA right now, my third and final master's degree, but I don't come to this county when I have assignments due. HughesNet just doesn't do it for me. I'm lucky enough to have a couple of Starlink dishes. Hopefully I can get one in a clearing that works sometimes. But, fiber to me, everything I've seen around the country, I do this professionally. I'm 57 years old. I've been doing this for 40 years. Yes, I started at 13, doing cellular networks. Towers and all kinds of fiber optic networks when I worked professionally at a tower company. I'm also responsible for some of the towers here in this county and many towers around the country. There's a right balance between wireless and fiber and satellite. In the hollows, where some of us are, really the only proper solution is going to be a fiber solution. I have nothing against anybody, Piedmont, anyone else, wireless. I totally support those people. And the fiber infrastructure is only going to further that cause into the rural areas, including the cellular networks, the first responder networks. I know we're going to do probably an upgrade on the 911 system we have, or the dispatch system we have, the FirstNet P25 network. That's coming. Fiber really is the right technology. The contracting vehicle that we have with All Points and through the Shenandoah conglomerate really is not the best. No, we all know that. We've all read the contracts. Mr. Curry did an absolutely amazing job of documenting some of the concerns and the faults. They're there. We know what they are now. But we really only have one shot at that brass ring. I'm willing to lean pretty far off the carousel and try to get that ring, because if we miss it, we're not going to get these funds back. The funds are going to be spent elsewhere. There may be more funds down the road, but the deal that we have on the table right now is pretty darn good. The risk to me, at least from my perspective, is pretty low. I know it's a risk, but a lot of the other folks are picking up a lot of that risk. The reward is much greater to me than the risk. By the way, I do like the idea. I talked to somebody about the idea of a project squawk, which means we may not have the resources to hire staff to run around and watch everything that's going on, but if we have enough citizens, and a lot of us have a lot of knowledge in this county, just go around and say, hey, I saw this being installed. That's not right. Something that I saw, not the right way to do it. Let's get out. Let's be vocal. Let's talk about it. Let's document it. And if we go to people, the All Points folks, and say, I saw this is not right, we are much more likely to get a response in a meaningful way than if we just have a lot of people saying, I don't know, they stepped on my lawn, or, they moved a couple rocks in my driveway. So let's get a semi-formal, not even formalized, but let's just develop a network of people that are going to go out and look at what's going on. I think I've said this publicly in various forums. I'm happy to repeat it. I don't like, really, or care for the folks at All Points, but that's the folks, as my son just went to his prom. That's the person invited to the prom. And that's who we're going to the prom with. Let's make the most of it. In the end, this is really great for the citizens, I believe. I think it's great for the county, the tax base, the businesses that are here. And to me, it's the right solution, and we'd be making a large mistake if we did not go forward with this project. Thank you.
Thanks for.
Thank you. Anyone else in the courtroom? I see we have a bunch of folks on Zoom. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your Zoom hand. I see Bill Dant's hand is up. Mr. Dant, if you'll tell us what district you're in.
Thank you. This is Bill Dant from Stonewall Hawthorne District. Let's see. I would first like to speak to the issue of landlines, which were, I think, brought up about people who were in the top end of the county. I live in the far southern end of the county in Boston, where we have Verizon. I had an outage a couple of years ago for 5 days. I had no landline service, and of course we have no cell service, or at least at that time we didn't. And the copper technician who came out from Culpeper said, you know, I'm the only one left here. I'm in my 50s. When I retire, Verizon's not going to have anybody servicing copper lines any longer. So if I were you, I would figure out another solution. So that was I guess that was my call to say, you know, we're in trouble. Can call 911. We had a fire in our woods a couple of years ago. If we hadn't had 911, we would have, probably our house would have burnt down. But to the point of, you know, getting good internet service, I'm a senior, I'm also an educator. I see the needs for seniors, telehealth, for our kids. I saw the kids up at the hotspot here down in Boston, which I really appreciate. Superintendent Grimsley's, you know, getting those hotspots up. But, you know, if you got a 4-year-old in the back seat while your kids are doing their homework and it's 30 degrees out and they have to go to the bathroom, what are you going to do? I mean, that's not a solution. That was a Band-Aid. We don't want to ever see that again. And Starlink, I know some people on these Board of Supervisors think Starlink is wonderful. The tree coverage we have around our house would never allow us to have a satellite link, although we could afford it. A lot of people in our county can't afford the upfront, what is it, $600 just for the dish rather, and then you wait months, years maybe to get it. It's great for people who can afford it and who can get it with their coverage, but it's not a solution for everybody in our county. So we just say, yeah, it may not be a perfect, opportunity, but it's the best we have, and it's not going to come back again. We don't take it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Anyone else online? All right, not seeing any hands online, I'll close the public comment period and open it up to the board.
Well, let's formally move into the next agenda item.
Oh, we do need to formally do that, don't we? We need to convene the Broadband Authority. We're going into the Regional Valley Broadband Project. Someone would like to make that motion?
So moved.
We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, both authorities are here.
Madam Chair, I think I may have invoked the ire of some of my colleagues by answering the question from a member of the public a few minutes ago, but I'm constantly amazed that the majority of this body doesn't seem to understand that it's hard for the public to make comments if they don't have the proper information. And I think when they ask a question of us, they're asking for that information so that they can make intelligent comments. And I've seen this for so many years, it just aggravates me that it's not seen by everybody. And I'm sorry if you feel I spoke out of turn, but I'm probably going to do that again if somebody in the public asks a question so that they can make intelligent comments. I've been at a school board meeting several years ago where someone asked a simple question and not one member of the school board or the superintendent even acknowledged the fact that this person had asked a question. They didn't even say, we can answer that later or put that in writing. They just sat there. And I am not going to allow that to happen on a board that I'm a member of. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but I'm going to answer questions, even if it means that y'all get upset at me. I don't know what to say.
I think in both cases, we acknowledged their question and said we would address it once we started the discussion of the agenda item. So,
but if you don't allow him to ask a question later on, he wouldn't be able to make an intelligent comment.
Okay.
So that's why I answered that simple question. So I think the misinformation mill, instead of a rumor mill, we've had a misinformation mill going on for several months now. we've been a party to this agreement since September, but technically since August because we didn't try to do anything else. And if this board and authority vote to go forward with All Points tonight or this month before the 5th, it doesn't make much sense to reconvene another meeting of either body if we only have 3 days left. So I'm pretty sure that a vote of some sort will happen tonight. It's very, very likely that this is a 2025 or 2026 project for completion. But not everybody understands that. Some people think, could I ask a question of my colleagues?
Sure.
The articles that were published in April 29th issue of the Rappahannock News, do you all feel that you were quoted properly?
There's one quote attributed to me that was not accurate, but other than that, yeah.
Well, could I ask what that is so that I can make intelligent comments tonight?
Sure. So one cliche or overused term that I don't use that would never pass my lips is too big to fail. I didn't say that.
Okay, that's why I'm asking. I don't have any comments based on that tonight, but I'm asking.
You asked a question, so I'm telling you that quote attributed to me was not something I said.
Okay, and Mr. Carney was quoted as saying that all your constituents or whatever had said that they want internet fast and they want it now. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, you bet.
But did you tell them that this was going to be a 3 to 4 year project?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So it's not fast and it's not now.
No, fast internet.
Fast internet, but now.
Different than a fast project.
But now it's not going to happen. Now, no matter what.
Anybody who would ask me, I'd say 3-4 years if we're lucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to
It's
make
like
sure.
when you're building a house. When's the house going to be built? Well, 2 years. Okay, well, add 35% to that. Or, anyway, fast, affordable, reliable internet. Not every single constituent, but the vast majority.
Well,
Even people who didn't vote for me. And they told me that.
I have drawn up some comments. I'm going to pass this down. If y'all would each take one. There's an extra one there for, I think there's more than one extra one there. So one for Mr. Curry, and then I'll give one each to the news media. And I'd like to have one that is a record in our minutes. Unfortunately, I didn't make one for, well, now I'm gonna have to get one of those back so that I can give it to the media. No, everybody, but there really, I should have had 9 or 10, but I only have 8.
Do you need one back?
I will before the end of the meeting, yeah. Because I'm gonna have to, if I'm gonna give it to the media, it was, anyway.
Thanks.
I'd like to read this so I don't go waste a lot of time and a lot of dead airspace. But again, these are comments on the All Points Broadband Initiative for Rappahannock County, given this day, 2nd May of 2022. I'm concerned the board and authority are approving a contract agreement with the Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission, NSVRC, to be our fiscal agent without knowing enough about the project. There are legitimate concerns by me, a board and authority member, and a 5 members constituents. I hear from people all over the county. I'm related to some people in all 5 districts. There is no defined start date. And I believe Mr. Carr mentioned in the Rappahannock News article that he would start within 12 months of the final approval by the Department of Housing and Community Development. So that puts us a year roughly from this month for starting the project. Maybe. So there's no anticipated completion date. There are also no maps showing the areas of proposed construction of service. This is significant due to the MOU entered in last September with All Points Broadband that Rappahannock County will not work with any broadband providers while a partner with All Points that would be in direct competition with the All Points Broadband Initiative. So for the next roughly 3 to 4 years, this county can't work with any other providers or we would be in violation of that MOU. I just want to make sure that everybody on this table is is in agreement with that, because if I'm wrong there, please correct me.
I believe we heard that once the contract was signed, if the contract was signed, then
Yeah, but
it's,
I heard that too, but if you go back and read the fiscal agent agreement, it says that it does not supersede those documents, so that will still remain in effect.
The MOU states that that term runs through the point when a definitive agreement is entered. And I believe in Ms. Pendix online that if you, as a bodies, take action to enter a definitive agreement to move this project forward, I would think that is the trigger for.
But we don't know that.
your attorney is online and.
Well, we can
behind
ask
me.
that question. I'm just going to keep going. We may have questions to make about that. There has been very little change in any of the agreements since Mr. Curry wrote his issue paper on the agreements. Two very significant problems I agree with are the fact that there are no maps, only a reference to the VADI application, and no mention of residents in served areas that would have to pay high construction costs to be served by current providers. That affects every one of our districts that has either CenturyLink or Comcast running through it. I have a neighbor that cannot get on Comcast that goes right by their house unless they pay $4,300 to get on it. My property's the same way, but I've found a way to get internet without paying $4,300. And I've done so legally, in case anybody is concerned about that. But there's a lady in Jackson District who was quoted $83,000 to get from Comcast at her house, and there's nothing in here that would help her. We had an individual that lives off Viewtown Road that was told in excess of $25,000. There's nothing in the agreements that would protect him. We were promised that, it's not there. And if it's not there, it didn't happen. So that person spoke in favor of this program because he heard that. But now we don't have that to protect them.
But they're considered, I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but it's an important point. So part of the underserved, and this has been well articulated, would include anyone who is otherwise on a Comcast distribution line, but that has been.
He said that. He didn't put it in writing yet.
Okay.
If it's not in writing, it hasn't happened.
All right, we can ask Ms. Panda if it's embedded somewhere in the series of documents. So
I'm sure it's not, but I can be mistaken. Okay. Let me see. The VADI application has the County of Rappahannock taking care of easement issues. This could lead to condemnation proceedings against our very own constituents if this project is built. Yet our board has not acknowledged that it is even aware of that possibility. I brought this up a couple of times. It's still in there because it's in the VADI application and there's no contrary language in any of the agreements. That's still in there. By not being a party to the construction project with All Points, Rappahannock County has no legal ability to inquire about any part of the process. Any part of the process. Or to influence any part of the construction project. Somebody was quoted in the paper as saying that they would do everything possible to make sure that if anyone got missed, that they would work hard to make sure that they were covered and that it was built efficiently as possible. We don't have any ability to talk to All Points on this. They don't answer our phone calls now. They don't come to our meetings now. They're not going to do anything after we give them access to $13 million. So I don't even know why that was said, because it's a false assumption on that supervisor's part. In short, if we realize an area is being missed, we cannot do a thing about it. All monies will be paid by Rappahannock County before any anticipated completion date. This fiscal agent agreement has Rappahannock County paying 50% of the money between now and July 1 of 2023, and the remaining 50% by 1 July 2024. We will pay 100% of our obligation probably before they start any construction in this county at all. That's what the agreement says. And I just want everyone to know that I understand that, and I hope the public understands that we're going to pay 50% up front before they probably start anywhere, and the other 50% most likely before they ever get to Rappahannock County. So my closing comment, board and authority members, is this is not a project where Rappahannock taxpayers are protected at all. if there's any disagreements with that, it's y'all's floor now.
We can, if, do you want to talk to Mrs. Pandak, she's available at any point on the discussion.
Well, if she heard my points, if she got anything contrary to say, I'd love to hear it, because on these points, I really would hope that I'm mistaken.
If I might, Madam Chair, are you ready for me to address those?
Certainly.
I'm not sure I picked up every one of them, but I'm sure Mr. Frazier will add on if I missed them. With respect to talking to other providers and then violating the MOU, which was executed last year, I've looked at paragraph 6, which is the one I believe Mr. Frazier is referring to, and it says for as long as each participating locality agrees that for so as long as it is a party to this memorandum, it shall not participate in a course of activity or course of conduct that is inconsistent with or competitive to the initiative. My understanding is that once you have entered into the fiscal agent agreement, then the memorandum of understanding for phase 1 would have ended.
Do you have language you can point me to?
No, sir, I do not have specific language other than when I look at this memorandum of understanding, it says it's for phase 1. It talks about going through phase 1 and then phase 2, which is when the localities elect to go forward with negotiations with all points for one or more binding mutually definitive agreements, and then it ends. And so, because the fiscal agent agreement is going to be with the commission, and the commission will engage with all points, then there would not be any further negotiations between the authority or Rappahannock County with all points. And therefore, I would deem the memorandum of understanding to have ended.
But with all deep respect for your experience, without any language to the contrary, I don't agree with that. And I'm in a position where
I would say, and I think your point is well taken, as we've talked before, about not having every detail in each one of these agreements. There is a view, and more obvious view, that every detail should be in there. And then there is the view that is the majority view, it appears, with our co-participating localities, which is that the nature of the arrangements and the funding are such that every little detail doesn't need to be in the document. And so I'm telling you how, if I were asked to interpret this agreement, which you have asked me, the way I would interpret it. Is it possible that somebody can read it another way? That's possible, but that's probably going to be the case with each one of my answers to you, is that maybe there is somebody who may read it differently, but that's the way that I read it. With respect to the question of condemnations by the county or by the RCBA, it is my view that based on the way that the fiscal agent and the grant agreement are written, that the RCBA and the county would not be condemning easements. I posed that question to counsel for the commission because I think it is a material question. And it was his opinion as well that the RCBA and Rappahannock County was not expected to condemn easements.
But the language is in there that explicitly states that.
And his understanding of the language, which is, again, I will tell you, a way it can be read is that the county and the RCBA would facilitate, but not condemn. And the word condemn is a very strong term, and in virtually every document that I have seen where there's a requirement for a public body to condemn, it says it specifically.
It doesn't say we facilitate though. That word's not in there.
That is to the extent that if you are, for example, asked by all points, does the county have easements in specific areas, then you can certainly and should advise all points whether or not you have easements. And if they say, do you have documents of recorded easements? To me, that is the type of support and facilitation. That is not condemnation.
Again, with great respect for your background and experience, the wording that you're choosing to use is not in there. The wording that I used was. It doesn't say condemnation, but it says that the counties are responsible for all easements.
And I have posed that issue to counsel for the commission because the commission, as you have noted, is the entity that is dealing with All Points Broadband with respect to this project. And he has indicated that that does not include condemnation.
But that's not in writing.
I have it from him in writing for what it's worth. Yes, sir, I do have that.
Well, we've never been presented that.
I did not forward that email to the board as a whole, but I do have it and I can forward it, but
Well, my question is, why would legal counsel withhold information from this body?
it's not withholding it, sir. It's simply, I'm telling you.
You didn't forward it though, ma'am. You did not forward it to us.
I am showing on the screen the language in the grant application about which you are discussing. And it says, each participating county has agreed to assist All Points with the required permitting and easements at no cost to the project, providing additional leverage in the form of approximately $1.2 million in cost savings for the project. That's what it says in the document.
They don't have the ability to get easements unless they're given to them freely.
It refers, well, Mr. Frazier, you can disagree, but that is the interpretation that we have received.
I wish you had forwarded
And
that.
I concur with that. I independently looked at it and before I even contacted Commission Counsel.
I hate to parrot myself, but I wish you had forwarded all information on this project to the various board members.
Well, I have to say, Mr. Frazier, that I did not have the understanding that I had to send every communication that I had to the entire board, and I have not done that.
Well, we are the ones that have to make the decisions, not our legal counsel.
Well, you can make the answer is the same. If you disagree with me and you don't feel confident in it, then you have a different opinion.
Well, I'm only able to disagree now or agree with you. I didn't have this information an hour ago or a week ago, whenever you received it. That's now a separate problem from me thinking one way or the other. I was allowed to think one way or the other, whether it's correct or not.
This time, Mr. Frazier, I'd like to hear from other board members.
Oh, please.
Well, I mean, I think we've heard from folks that they'd like to revisit Mr. Curry's memorandum, and I heard from folks over the weekend that had some confusion regarding that memorandum versus public statements this week about how there could be so many cautions about it one week and then public statements endorsing it the next week. So people just wondered what had changed in the interim. So if we could just revisit what details we may have been able to capture in the revisions and what details eluded us in the revisions, please. Thank you, Gary.
The fiscal agent agreement's on the screen right now, should be shared to the folks on Zoom. There were very minor changes between the draft that the bodies reviewed a couple weeks ago compared to what is available now, and it became available just after, I guess, the press was hounding me for quotes for their last edition. And those are largely included in paragraphs 3, 4, and then I believe part of 5. And so the insertion in paragraph 3.
What about paragraph 2?
Those changes were largely incorporated in the earlier drafts.
Okay.
This is
Yeah,
track changes along the way.
Okay.
And what Ms. Pandek and I had noted and was, if you remember, my memorandum was about all three agreements. The agreement between the state and the regional commission, the agreement between the regional commission and All Points Broadband, and then the agreement between the commission and the 8 counties. So this fiscal agent agreement is, on the screen, is between the commission and the 8 counties. We have not received updated versions of the other 2. We have received an update to this. And one of the main concern I expressed relative to the fiscal agent agreement was our legal or otherwise access to the regional commission to ensure that they fulfilled their obligations of their agreement with All Points Broadband. There was nothing in this agreement that really said that they had to do that. We collectively, 8 counties, would provide $62.5 million, and they would hold on to our money and hand it out as in a timed pace. But it was important, what do the counties get for that? And what we got before was an assurance that they would provide, in accordance with the terms of the DHCD agreement, grant management, and they would provide, in accordance with the agreements, construction implementation services. But it didn't say that they had to do the things that they were compelled to do as part of the grant agreement with All Points. And so you can see the assertion in paragraph 3 and 4 to include reference to both the DHCD agreement and the grant agreement. And for paragraph 4, the VADI application and the grant agreement. So it's both what they've said they would do in the application and what they are compelled to do with the DHCD agreement, and those things that they are compelled to do as part of the grant agreement. And that's important for us to have that access into the All Points Broadband agreement.
Mr. Curry, I noticed that in paragraph 4, the phrase VADI application is there but absent from paragraph 3. There must be a reason for that, why the phrasing is VADI application in the latter paragraph. Do you know why that is?
I don't know the answer to that off.
Because above there's a reference to VADI project, and I just want to know if there's any.
Right, and I think the grant management is intended to be in accordance with the state agreement.
Okay.
And the agreement with the All Points. And then for the project. And then for 4, the construction and implementation is consistent with what was said to the state and everybody on the planet that was going to happen according to the application, and that they have agreed to do as part of this grant agreement. Will agree to do. It's not finalized yet. And we understand it's currently being modified, and we hope that there's traction among our peer agencies to help make some changes to that. And I'll say that I worked for several months to try to create change, and Ms. Pandek, in her own channel with county attorneys, worked hard to create change, and we were able to get these very few words inserted in 3 and 4 that are very important for us.
Yep.
The other one that is very important is at the very end, and that's 5E, and that states that no participating county shall be required by the agreement to contribute more than the amount set forth in Exhibit A with respect to each such participating county. So for us, that's 5.9 million if you look at Exhibit A. So in no event are we responsible for anything more than 5.9 million, period. And that's important for us. There's a lot of questions. Well, what if there's cost escalation? What if it creeps? What if it goes up? Where does it say that we're not responsible for more? Here's where it says we're not responsible for more.
I want to say this is one of my points of concern, because I think the spirit and the intention of this addition was in the right place. And certainly a cap on our pay-in was something that I wanted, but also at the same time, we have to acknowledge that there has been inflation since last summer. And this price tag, I'm sorry folks, it's going to go up. And we have to realize that if we adopt it with this language, that then there's no room for them to say, we can't complete the project for 5.9 million.
Well, I suppose in any agreement, if we come to the end, come to the agreement and All Points says, we're dead. It's impossible. Prices have gone up 500%. We can't possibly eat this amount. It's just not going to happen. Each of the signatories on any agreement have an opportunity to go back to the table and talk about how they change, or say, no, the words are the words. You do it for this, or then you move into the other parts of the agreement that guide how you wind down a project. So that's where there's repayment, and the DHCD agreement from the state to regional commission requires repayment. And the grant agreement between the regional commission and All Points requires that repayment. And then there was my question, well, how do we fit into that repayment?
Which I think the spirit and the idea of those things is on the right track. However, we lack the scope and milestones to be able to control, hey, we're at this point in this project, we should only have spent this much money. Or to say, hey, you've taken 5.9 million and you haven't completed this project because we don't have a scope of work or metrics or maps or any sort of guidance that defines specifically this project. And that is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So
If I could, how would we enforce something against All Points where we're not under contract to All Points? We would be under a contract to the Northern Shenandoah Regional Commission that doesn't have any money.
And our access, as I understand it, to All Points is via the commission. And
They don't
so
have any money.
They have our money.
Right, but after they run out of the money and there's no system that's completed anywhere, what happens then?
We would have.
Madam Chair, I
Please.
Yes, ma'am.
One other thing, Mr. Curry, if you could go back up to, on page 3 near the top of the page, that additional language.
Okay. So, thank you. And feel free to expound on that, ma'am.
Sure, and to Smith and Mr. Frazier's points, I believe, although this only allows a framework for it, it says that all payments by participating counties to NSBRC shall be made in the manner specified by NSBRC, which manner of payment may be changed from time to time, and NSBRC's sole discretion, provided that NSBRC shall make reasonable efforts to coordinate the matter of such payments to take into account any limitations of procedures required by the participating counties. It may not have been that they necessarily were speaking as to the phasing and payments being made to All Points, but I believe that allows a vehicle for the county to work with NSBRC and how the payments are going to be made.
And important to understand is that the way this fiscal agreement is structured is that there'll be a steady flow of money to NSVRC who would hold our money. And then they would only issue the money to All Points when the state says that the milestones have been reached. And I understand the discomfort in what those milestones are, which are an attachment to the state's agreement, which is not finalized. I understand the discomfort there. And so we do have to have some faith that the state will uphold their end of the agreement and will protect their $96 million in a way that is in keeping with our interests and our $5.9 million. And when I say our $5.9 million, I mean the donations that have been made and the pandemic relief money. And that is a leap of faith that we need to take to join arms with the state to say that the state is going to manage the pace at which funds can be spent out from the Regional Commission to All Points Broadband. They are 100% in control of that process.
I don't happen to have much faith in, two parts of this three-sided agreement or four-sided agreement. You've got Department of Community Housing Development, you've got the localities, which would be one of the, the four legs of this stool. You've got the contractor, the vendor, All Points, and you've got the Northern Shenandoah Regional Commission, and who wouldn't meet with us. So you have two of the four who wouldn't respond to us and even meet with us to discuss some of these preliminary questions for the last 7 or 8 months, as promised. So, my premise has always been this: if they won't talk with us before we give them access to $13 million, which is the 5.9 local money and the 6.1 million, or 7.1 million rather, Lottie funds, if they won't talk to us now, what compels them to talk to us later? That's just my experience from living in the real world.
Well, and I have to say, to add to that, and this is not meant as a dig at DHCD, who's doing the best that they can, but going from their normal body amounts, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but they had very modest body award amounts for years and years, to suddenly administering $700 million worth of awards.
With the same staff.
And I happen to know on the Northern Neck agreements, they lagged on those contracts and their deadlines, simply because they were stretched so thin. So to now know we're looking at a year with even much larger amounts of money in play and many more localities affected, I think those deadlines will be affected, and I have serious concerns that DHCD will be able to give projects the amount of oversight that they need.
Again, in the spirit of full disclosure, just a few minutes of research, Google, I find that All Points is involved with a build out in 20 counties in Virginia alone in the same time period. Roughly the same time period, 20 counties. And I think it's going to be very problematic.
Mr. Whitson?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought Gary was working us through the agreement changes.
And I apologize, the memo in front of me. Those are the main issue I had with the fiscal agent agreement was the failure that it did not have a link to the commission All Points agreement. I said all along that I wanted one agreement between the counties, the commission, and All Points. That's not going to happen. Our peers are not like-minded, and that's not going to happen. And I was very critical of our peers and not using the leverage that we have and have had to bring the power of 8 counties to bear. However, I will say that the 11th hour, movement is happening. I give a lot of that credit to Ms. Pandek, who's been really working her attorney contacts on the backside to begin to make these changes. They do look like very subtle changes, but they're very important changes to these agreements. And there's no guarantee that we will continue to see those benefits, but I'm hopeful that we will in the other agreements.
Okay. I just wanted to make a few comments then. Thank you, Mr. Curry, for walking us through them. I hate to hear problems with landlines. And I saw people laughing during the description of what that poor woman went through. And I don't think it's funny. I think it's very sad. And, the thought of having an emergency and not being able to reach someone is very, very sad. So I do hope, didn't sound like she had accessed or called county administration to have that escalated. So hopefully we can follow up with her and follow that escalation process and yield some results for her. And that was something we put in place when Mr. Fraser and I were on a committee together, the Public Safety Committee, because actually we decided that was a good idea and the board approved it, and I think It's helped hundreds of people in this county, and it isn't foolproof, and it doesn't always work. But it does help, and I sure hope we can help her, because that, it's a terrible feeling. I wanted to address some of the public comments. I heard the comment that there was actually less risk for our county. I think there's actually more risk for our county, because when you do the math, we're putting in $1.5 million. That's our $700,000 initial tranche from ARPA, plus ARPA money that I believe folks will opt to be in play tonight, plus $400,000 from the schools, which is also county money. And so that's $1.5 million of county money going into this project, which is more than we received in ARPA funds. Most counties that opted to pursue a broadband agreement with All Points, it was a fraction of their ARPA funds that they dedicated to this program. We are in for a lot. So I just wanted to point that out in terms of risk. It may be a lower dollar amount, but we're a smaller rural county with only certain streams of revenue, and so to us it's a lot of money. I thank Mr. Curry for walking us through the concerns that he was able to resolve and that Ms. Pandek was able to work through with some of the other counties involved in the agreement. I do find problematic still the non-compete nature that we initially engaged, and I understand folks' frustration. They say, well, if we're not going to do this, what would we do? And that non-compete clause has really bound our hands for months now. And I think that there have been much better options, some that I forwarded along 2019 to the Broadband Committee at that time for a municipal bond for us to build out broadband and take it into our own hands. I do wish, in retrospect, that we had acted on that faster. I understand there were changes in people and, of course, then COVID. So it was hard to get traction at that time to move something forward, but that also put it on the burner for us as well. But there are other options, and I keep hearing this, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I think if someone were to tell me something was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I would read the fine print very carefully. And I'm very concerned that we aren't doing that. If I truly believed that this would get internet service to everyone in the county that needed it, as we initially perhaps understood it to be, I would vote for it. But if something's, first of all, Mr. Frazier nailed it. If people won't come talk to you, there are two people that can convince me it's a good idea to vote for this, and they won't come talk to us.
Right.
And we have to have a 4-year relationship with them at minimum. In December of 2026, if the project isn't complete, we can either take what's left, if there's ever any money left, and go away, or we can renegotiate with them and continue that relationship. There's no guarantee that the project will be complete in December 2026. There's no performance guarantees, there's no maps, there's no scope of work, there's no milestones to hit. The RDOF is still not captured. There's still not adequate language to cover the drop fees. And then the one thing that nobody ever wants to talk about, what happens when the first year is over? And suddenly those large drop fees come back into effect. And people are faced with having to pay $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, $80,000 for a drop. This is a long, painful, and very temporary solution. I know I agree with Mr. Curry. It always makes me laugh when I hear him say that this should have been a 3-party agreement because, at the beginning of the year, your children's teachers send home your contract that your child will do their work and that you as a parent will ask them to do their work. And I always made an extra line for the teacher, that I would write in something for the teacher that they would promise to teach my child and do their work, and I would return it to make it a three-party agreement, because I thought if the child and the parent had to sign, the teacher should have to sign too. So it frustrates me very much that this is not a three-party agreement. And I know when I talk to folks and they say, but you can do this and you can do that, and I say, but we're not party to the agreement. We're going to make payments into a fund that will be administered by a regional commission to which we don't belong. So our degree of control over this project is very minimal, which makes it, to my mind, a very, very risky project. I've already talked about inflation and my concern that we'll run out of money before we run out of project. And I have talked about this several times previously to my peers, and I think it's essential, and I know our legal counsel disagrees, that we capture some sort of language that allows us to include a local user fee or some sort of local fee on the billing from all points. I've been told that this is not the time to capture that, and I disagree, again, on the record, because I feel at the end of this project, we will still have many unserved people, and the people that are benefiting from this effort should be contributing to future efforts. And we don't have that ability at this time. I think that's captured most of what I had to say about it. I understand that the way folks vote on it may be affected by also where they live. And I would just mention too that on the REC map, on our own authority website, it still shows no REC backbone for West Sperryville, no REC backbone for the 231 corridor through 2023. And that's the backbone, that's not the build out. So I hope it does help, but there are a lot of concerns going in.
Mr. Whitson?
I'll defer to you, Mr. Carney, for the time being. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
I'll just add that, in all big projects, there's always risk. There's always risk. And there's always risk in not doing them, especially with this project. There are so many folks in this county who desperately need this. And we have an opportunity to get it to them. And I am under no illusion that this project will go seamlessly. No projects do. And it will be our job to make sure that it's done in a timely manner and that it's done right, and that the whole jurisdiction solution that they sold to us is actually a whole jurisdiction solution. 12 years ago, when we had the Broadband Committee set up, there's no way you could have predicted that this would have come down the line. We are not spending $10 million of taxpayer money in this county from our own tax base to do this, and so many people have done that and a lot more. Yeah, sure, there's risk in it. There's definitely risk in it. But there's a lot more risk, in my judgment, than not. And I have heard overwhelmingly from all of my constituents, including the ones that did not vote for me, that they want to see this happen. So I think moving forward, it is incumbent upon us to nail down on them and just make sure that the shared interest that we have with the state and with the other localities helps to guide this process. And I think that it will. I think that's probably all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank Margaret for all of her hard work, and I think Bill Dance, the only other one that's in the room or on the call that were a part of the Broadband Committee, that I am proud that I got to join before I became a supervisor, just because I am passionate about technology and fiber to the home. Was a dream at that time, at least in 2007, when the Board of Supervisors decided that connectivity was going to be an issue and they needed to do something about it, or in 2017 with the Broadband Committee. There was a document that I found online called Rappahannock County Decision Points back in 2017, and one of it was specify what the county is willing to share / invest. And anything the county can offer a potential provider in the form of incentives, right-of-way, pole attachments, easements, permits, or facilities can shorten future deployment time and make a project more attractive to potential providers. Now that, I believe, came out of the Broadband Committee, but that was being discussed back then in the committee. Goals were created, and when Margaret said she wanted a 95% coverage of affordable digital subscriber line, fiber optic, or equivalent broadband transmission service of no less than 25 consistent download speed and 3 consistent upload speed with low latency for Rappahannock residents, businesses, schools, government, and volunteer organizations, and incorporating system architecture adequate to expand broadband delivery service to 100 megabits per second download speed by year 2030 to ensure future growth. I thought 95% was crazy. Didn't think it was possible. We attended, Margaret and I were lucky enough to attend a conference in Richmond, which Comcast and all the normal players were there, but also Jimmy Carr from All Points, and that's when we first heard the term of laws of finance and physics, and that the last mile was the most expensive. Then we formed the Broadband Authority because the committee really had gone as far as the committee could go. There was no ability to enter into a contract, spend money, anything like that. So the committee had decided that it had gone as far as it could, and we formed the Broadband Authority. COVID hits, CARES funds are distributed to assist with difficulties facing all counties. The students, obviously, we were trying our best, and the hotspots did help considerably. But I think the country, at least, was embarrassed by students that could not take their classes, or some students could and others couldn't, and how unfair that was. And then in August, late August, early September, I reached out because I was thinking this was a political issue. So I contacted Senator Obenshain, Delegate Weber, Delegate Gilbert, and Senator Warner's office. And they basically all agreed that this was an important opportunity for rural communities, and it was important to tap into resources that may not be available in the future. And that is the big point on this one for me. When we determined that it was going to be about a $21 million project if we tried to go it alone, we all just kind of decided that that was probably not going to happen in Rappahannock County anytime soon anyway. And now, just years later, because of a terrible pandemic and a situation that had everybody trying to figure out how to work and go to school, we have the fiscal part of the finance part of this. And as far as I'm concerned, the pressure now is on All Points to deal with the physics. And when we were in Richmond, he knew Rappahannock County then. So our mountains and everything else he's going to have to deal with are not anything different than when we talked to him in 2019. This opportunity, I do not believe, based on the multiple years that we've been looking at this, Chantel came in and said they'd do 865 people or homes. Comcast obviously wasn't interested in doing the entire county, or they would have done it, or at least said, hey, we're working on it. CenturyLink is just now getting into fiber, and whether they want to come into a mountainous area with 7,300 people is questionable. It's questionable for any other ISP, whether they would want to deal with our mountains. So I do believe this is our opportunity. This is now for Rappahannock County. It is going to take a while. We are going to have hiccups, but I know how passionate the people in this county are to help each other. My guess is we're going to be very, very well aware of things that go right and things that don't go right. And I will do my best, I can speak for me, to make sure that the citizens of this county get fiber to their home within that 12-month period guaranteed time, so they're not worried about a $40,000 maintenance fee that I was going to have to pay on Bearwalla Road to get Comcast to my house. So I do believe this is the time, and it's now.
Chair Donahue, first of all, I want to take a minute and thank you for all of your hard work over the last 6 months or so. You've put a lot of time and energy into trying to pull all the disparate pieces together, and I think we all recognize after our discussion tonight that the final set of documents that would comprise an agreement to go forward are not perfect, but I know how much time and energy you put into it, so I want to thank you. And I also want to thank Ms. Pandek, our attorney for the Broadband Authority. And I joked with Ms. Donahue the other day. I said, I think my quote unquote interview with Ms. Pandek was about 5 minutes long, and I was instilled with confidence. And I think we can all agree she's been a professional throughout. So we're grateful for your good counsel, and I'm certainly glad we hired you. I'm glad, Ms. Donahue, that you laid out a timeline that puts tonight's decision in context, because it gives me the luxury of not having to look much beyond this past weekend. Mr. Carney and I were going to get a quick dinner after our afternoon session, and we're walking past the CenturyLink building over here, and I told Mr. Carney, just give me a minute, I need to check on something. And so I rapped on the door, and a couple minutes later, a technician named Jesse came to the door, and I said, hey, how's it going? What's the situation with Mount Marshall Road? He said they should all be back up and running. And basically last Thursday, everybody on Mount Marshall Road, which intersects with Harris Hollow Road, everyone was off their CenturyLink connection. And that includes, in that case, both DSL, internet service, as well as landline service. And in the midst of those not very densely placed houses on Mount Marshall Road lives a woman who's 100 years old. And I happened to be with her and her daughter the other day, and they had questions about what we were signing up to do and whether this potential fiscal agent agreement was imperfect and whether there wasn't some other option. And I said, well, have you talked to Piedmont Broadband? They said, oh, we can't get that here. We've tried. And I said, did you sign up for Starlink? And like a lot of us, they put their deposit down and they're still waiting. And it's not clear even if it'll work on their property. On Saturday, there are 3 CenturyLink trucks in our hollow working, with technicians working from 8 until 5 p.m. And they weren't there by accident. They were there because I requested that they be there working. And I'm not asking for credit in this regard, but to make the point that I'm one of 5 on this board, and I represent about 1,500 people, more or less. And many of my constituents, unfortunately, are customers of CenturyLink. And so for the last 2+ years that I've been on this board, I've spent a huge amount of time, and I'm happy to do it because I think it's the job I should do, a huge amount of time leaning on CenturyLink technicians. And Mr. Curry and Ms. Donahue, you're copied on many of the emails that go back and forth with CenturyLink management. For many of those constituents of mine who are on CenturyLink, they frankly cannot rely on CenturyLink for basic emergency communication. In many cases, they cannot compel Piedmont Broadband to serve them, nor can Piedmont Broadband in many cases serve them because of topographic limitations. And Starlink might be out there as a possibility, but it seems like that's not happening very quickly for many of us. And so I am faced with a question, what other choice is there? And we received a letter this morning that one of someone commented on during the public comment period. And the person said that they were tired of hearing this stupid argument that there are no other choices. I don't think it's a stupid argument. I just lived that argument all weekend long. And I recognize that there's risk here, and I don't want to beat that dead horse. I owe it to my constituents, and one thing, Mr. Frazier, I did say in the paper that was wholly accurate. In my view, I think it would be malpractice in some form if I did not vote in favor of this broadband initiative, because for me, it would be turning my back on all of those people I was out trying to help this weekend. So, you know, I can't kick the can down the road here. And, you know, to extend that metaphor a little bit, I was thinking it's not really a can, it's two cans connected with a string to reflect basically this failing communication infrastructure we have in our county. And certainly in my case, in my voting district, many citizens who have come to me and said by email, by phone, on the street, we've got to at least try. And I know that that's maybe not good enough and for some, and that we should somehow refine these agreements until they're perfect. But I think there are enough eyes on this that hopefully, like I was doing this weekend with all of us involved and being hands-on, we'll make sure that people are not forgotten, that during the 12 months of discounted drop availability that our constituents get hooked up. And I think it's on each one of us to make sure that that happens. And I'm certainly making a commitment here to be hands-on in this process to make sure that we get the product that we're expecting to be delivered to us in a reasonable time frame. With that, I will go ahead and move this along and put forward a motion. This is put forward a motion that the Rappahannock County Board of Supervisors and the Rappahannock County Broadband Authority adopt a joint resolution authorizing a fiscal agent agreement with the Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission for the Regional All Points Broadband VATI Grant Project.
Just out of clarity, this is structured as as you noted, a joint resolution and contemplated to be voted on by the authority board and then second by the board.
Okay, I'll put forward a motion that the Rappahannock County Broadband Authority adopt. So would each entity be adopting the same joint resolution? Okay, that the Rappahannock County Broadband Authority adopt the joint resolution by the Board of Supervisors and the Broadband Authority of Rappahannock County, Virginia, authorizing a fiscal agent agreement with the Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission for the Regional All Points Broadband VATI Grant Project.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Yes, sir.
It's not that I want to be, last heard on anything, but Mr. Whitson has again inserted that phraseology that he will do all he can do to make sure that, this, and Mr. Carney as well said it himself, that they'll do everything they can do to make sure that nobody's missed. But we don't have the legal standing to do that. And I think it's very, very bad on our part to even put that out there when we can't do that. We don't have any standing to contact them. And, as far as getting on CenturyLink for what they do or don't do, we can go through the SCC, who has no regulatory authority over All Points Broadband. So we can't work with them the same way that you have tried to work with CenturyLink. It's just not going to happen. I'm parroting myself from previous comments. They won't even return our phone calls or emails. They won't come visit us and have discussions with us in our meetings so that we could have questions answered. They're not going to do very much after this thing is signed. So to put forth something like that in the public, I think it either signifies to the public that we're being less than candid with them, or that we don't understand the project ourselves. And I think I understand enough about the project to know that if they miss my part of the district or the county, there's not much I or this board collectively can do about it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. This is the Broadband Authority. Roll call vote. Mr. Frazier.
Nay.
Ms. Smith.
Nay.
Mr. Whitson.
Aye.
Mr. Carney.
Aye.
And I also.
I will go ahead and put forward a motion that the Rappahannock County Board of Supervisors adopt a joint resolution by the Board of Supervisors and the Broadband Authority, Rappahannock County, Virginia, authorizing a fiscal agent agreement with the Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission for the Regional All Points Broadband Batty Grant Project.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I did just want to say, and this doesn't really relate to this motion, but you know, Mr. Frazier and I have brought it up many times on this board that yes, we have filed complaints about CenturyLink with the SCC, the State Corporation Commission, but we have never filed an FCC complaint, a federal complaint, and we should do that. We should have done it a long time ago.
I agree.
And ask me how I know, because I used to handle them.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote of the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Frazier.
Nay.
Ms. Smith.
Nay.
Mr. Whitson.
Aye.
Mr. Carney.
Aye.
And I also.
Madam Chair, I'll put forward a motion that the, Mr. Curry, I'm talking about a further allocation of,
It's in the resolution.
oh, it
Oh, it
is?
is?
It's already captured?
Yep.
Okay.
You do need to adjourn your
Broadband
broadband
authority.
authority.
Okay, there it is.
So how is, and this is sort of maybe I just need to ask permission to ask a question, Madam Chair. So as I understand it now, if we've allocated all this ARPA money for this project and the project deadline is December 2026, and the ARPA deadline, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Curry, is also 2026?
Correct. To spend.
How is that going to work? How can we possibly align project and reporting deadlines?
We need to obligate funds by December 31, 2024. This act tonight is an obligation of those funds. We need to spend those funds by the 26th. So presumably with the various funds available to you, the different pools, different grants, different donations, we will be able to structure the payment in such a way to ensure that the funds from ARPA will be spent by December 31st, 2026.
Okay, that's a very critical piece of the puzzle. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we had a motion for the Broadband Authority to adjourn. Was that yours, Mr.?
Did not hear that.
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
3.
All right. And I think now we just need a motion for adjournment.
No, we've got more work from
Oh,
this
that's right.
afternoon.
Dang it.
It shouldn't take us
I
very
wrote
long.
that
Yeah.
down and.
Yeah.
All right.
Trying to remember where we,
We wrapped up just at the county administrator update, I think.
okay.
Right. I think you finished your, didn't talk about treasurer's reports much, but I believe that you covered that agenda.
Do you, would you mind if could we,
Can we take a brief recess, please?
Sure.
Thank
I'm
you.
fine with that.
yeah.
All right, so we have reports and matters presented by the board.
Gosh. No, thank you. Oh, I was just gonna ask, under the treasurer's report, if you just pull up the best graph of all the cash flow. I just wanna see, okay.
So this weird bump here is tranche 1 of ARPA. Just received an email not too long ago that we'll be receiving an email.
Government efficiency at its best.
Within 30 days after that, the second tranche should be coming along. They told us it would be a year after the first, and we got the first in May. So I expect then you will
It'll be
again see
parallel,
something
yeah.
weird happening.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can see these 3 years here, we really define that trend.
Yep.
And then pandemic and CARES and ARPA and everything happened, which really drove this line up. But these 3 years, we were running over the top of each other, which is what you would typically expect.
But, I mean, there's other non-COVID related revenue that's also helping us.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, as
we've
a pen-
doubled up on sales and meals and lodging tax.
Exactly, and that is a lot of, partly to do to the pandemic that you budgeted really low.
Yeah.
And so you're spent low, but then the money came in really high, and so that further pushed those 20 and 21, or 21 and 22 lines up.
So I'm trying to look across the room. I have pretty good eyesight. So again, our low point in this ongoing fiscal year is about $6 million, right? Thank you. The low point.
Yeah, 6.5.
Yeah.
6.478.
Okay.
Well, no, it was over here. 6.153. Sorry.
And then what's the earliest? 2016.
Yeah, oh, you're negative 8.95.
Okay, that was the year. Okay.
Good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, and it's been mentioned a number of times, gaining in here, that's because the budgets were not set up right.
Right.
You didn't add too much to it over these years. And now you're, as we just talked about, there's a lot of factors. This little kick here was CARES. That kick was ARPA 1, and then we'll see another one here, be ARPA 2.
Some of the efforts from Ms. Nick as well as, being able to
Oh, yeah.
pay early and monthly and just everything
That was kind of pulling this up from the depths here.
yeah.
Okay. It's
There's a lot of information in that chart.
It's like watching something uplifting, just to see the uplifting moving.
And it ties back to your earlier conversations. You can put a lot of those dollars to work rather than borrow money for your capital projects that you have coming up.
The only other one, I don't know what everybody else has under reports, but the 540 area code, I know me personally, I'm going to post around Wakefield District at Settles, at the post office and the tavern, and just try to make sure that people.
We had a problem last week where somebody in CenturyLink pulled the lever early. And it screwed things up, phones didn't work right, we were cutting over 911 the same day. And, it took a lot of phone calls to finally figure out somebody screwed up and started early.
The key is you're going to have to dial 540 no matter if it's
You have to
local
dial
or.
10 digits.
That's unbelievable. I don't understand why that has.
We run out of 540 numbers, and now we're gonna have 826 numbers as well. So your neighbor might be an 826. Local call, 10 digits.
On a new number.
On a new number.
Yeah.
Too many cell phones, too
I've
many
lived in the
everything.
same spot for a long time, and in that time period, they've changed my phone number, area code. They changed my street address from, I always loved my street address. I was 1833. Route 1, box 1833. Now,
Rural route.
yeah, now I'm 446 Viewtown Road, but 1833 was the date this county was formed.
That's cool.
And I thought that was really, really significant,
Well, if you're lucky.
But they changed that, so that the street address, they changed the zip code, which was on everything that we had paperwork-wise or on the side of my truck. And then they had the bright idea to change the zip code. So all that stuff happened, and I haven't moved anywhere in that amount of time, but I've had 3 different significant things happen to me.
And that frustration, will be happening to
Again.
people as we clean up the addressing for NG 911. And hopefully you're not one of the people who has a wrong number.
I would probably make a strong effort that he's not one of them.
Well, if you're odd and the even side, or even on the odd side, or you're out of sequence, then you might be getting a letter.
Anything else under reports?
A very big building permit total again this month, $2 million.
I contributed to that today.
So that's not what we took in, that's the estimated value of construction, but still.
Still. All right. Matters presented by the board? Mr. Frazier?
Well, I don't know that I came prepared to say anything, but after Mr. Whitson mentioned that he has been exchanging emails with the county administrator and the chair about CenturyLink, I don't know about those. And I have constituents that have CenturyLink numbers. So I don't know why I have to continue to ask that we share information as a board. But I'm asking, I'm asking it one more time. I mean, I found out recently that Mr. Curry had sent a list of the dates that he would be out of office, and it didn't get forward. And I know that everybody's busy, but I don't know why it's that difficult to just put CC on an email. I mean, as awkward as I am, I know how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, just so you know what you're getting into, I'm talking about like within a 10-minute span, 5 different emails going back and forth with someone at CenturyLink talking about specific address on a, like down the road from me. If you want to be copied on that, I have no problem doing it.
I have constituents with CenturyLink.
Right, I'm just saying this is like troubleshooting a specific outage.
Well, I appreciate that, but it would be beneficial, I think, for all of us to have the working knowledge of what's going on with a vendor that serves probably all but Stonewall District to some degree with numbers. Yes. I don't know if they're down that way, but I certainly know that I have constituents.
Sure. And we should probably let Lauren May know too, because she's initiating a lot of the contact. So,
yeah, I mean, there's thousands of emails that happen. I can't copy you on all of them because you won't be able to see the things that are important. But we do
let me make that decision, if you would, sir.
Yes.
I mean, if they can see it, then I should see it.
Yeah, I mean, with the board, that's one thing. But there's a lot of communication goes on with CenturyLink that the board's not involved with. But we do have a renewed, since the SCC hearing, which is still not totally finalized, keep checking. We do have a new point of contact for escalations, and that person is extremely responsive. Mr. Whitson sent an email to him at like 12:50 in the morning, and he responded at 1:20 or something like that.
Is that right?
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know what his role is or job is, but right now it's to make sure that he gets the assets where they need to go. Unfortunately, the infrastructure is pretty bad, so they're pretty busy. Well, it's better than before, where we go 2 weeks and we don't even know if anything's happening.
I may have smiled but I didn't mean to make light of Miss Ellis's problem, but I know from experience from living in Fauquier County, I lived next to the old Big K radio. And every time there was a thunderstorm, Big K radio played over my telephone, my landline. And people would say, "Stop yelling at me over the phone." And I'd say, "I'm trying to talk over the radio." And they'd say, "Well, then turn it down." And one Saturday night, I was so frustrated. I got somebody on the line, and I said, "Look, I think I've put up with this long enough, and I'm going to start prorating the amount of money I send you based on the number of days or hours that I can actually use my telephone." And Sunday morning, there was a guy out there early. And he came up to the house as I was stepping out to go for a run in those days, and he says, "Well, I think I got it. I got the part here that I had to change. I think you've taken care of it." So I don't know how many times I saw somebody out there, how many times I saw a truck parked down there, but this guy fixed it on a Sunday morning because I threatened to cut their money.
Yeah. Unfortunately, all those guys are retired.
Yeah. No, I had a friend that went to work, just like, I think it was, Bill Dan, I think, said it, that Verizon, he went to work for Verizon, and one of the first things he did was have to start cutting personnel. And that's what he did. He cut the older personnel that weren't in the digital world. That's where they started cutting.
But we're in as good of a position with communication with both Verizon and CenturyLink now as we've been in my entire time here. So I feel fortunate for that. Now, whether that continues through the transition to Brightspeed, that'll be the big question.
Yep.
I mean, I want to say there were at least 5 technicians in our hollow all Saturday, and I stopped and, you know, they're basically just rewiring everything from one end of the hollow to the other. Problem is, people are going, it's causing other problems, and that's what we're experiencing now. So hopefully it's a long-term fix that's going from one end of the hollow to the other that will stabilize the poor infrastructure they have. But there's collateral damage. In fact, when we knocked on the door, I don't know, I think that's when he told me I'll probably be out tomorrow because they're getting to that part of the hollow. So it's not good. They're working with what they have.
Ms. Smith?
I just got an email from Mark Nesbitt, and they're looking at, the earliest it would be May 16th for the repaving in this variable area, and he'll keep us in the loop. And I do hope we send a nice note to Oliver Price. He's been very wonderful to work with over the years, and in the storms that we've had, he's been very responsive, and it's always nice to see his face. I wondered why he put his hand up so quickly and sounded so happy today, but I'm very, very happy for him on his retirement, and maybe the board can send him a note.
Yep.
Or some flowers.
I think it's a great idea.
Are you going to do that? As
Sure.
chair?
We do have some money for like gifts and recognition, so maybe we should send him some flowers or something. I don't know. I'll leave that to y'all.
He has been great to work with.
Yeah, he has been great.
I mean, when he says that.
You've known longer than we have,
Yeah.
or me.
When he says, I'll have somebody on that, I'll have somebody return the call, it always happens. He's one of those few people that if he says it's gonna rain, you take an umbrella with you.
That and he's a pillar in the Culpeper community.
Yeah, he's
Outside of
very
the
well
storms.
respected.
Is that all, Ms. Smith?
Yes, I think so.
Mr. Whitson? Mr. Carney? I don't have anything either. Entertain a motion? Are we done?
Before motion adjourned.
Have a second?
A second?
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Yeah.